So, in the news today, Pep Guardiola has said or suggested that players should go on strike and that he would support them. I don't know that players should go on strike, but I have long talked that I think players play too many games and that the Premier League is just too congested. And to be fair, this is an argument that has been going on for years. Often, when we do poorly at a World Cup, it is often suggested that players are just too tired. I think it's a lot more in depth than that. And when you talk to some of or listen to some of the interviews with the older players, they talk about a lack of unity and stuff. And some of them just not understanding why they didn't click. And you actually rarely hear any of them say that much about being too tired to play at the end of the season. But I suspect it was a big part of it. But I definitely think currently, with the current situation, with games being cancelled, fixtures now becoming congested, you can't expect them. I don't think you can expect them to just keep playing and playing and playing and playing. You've either got to extend the season or reduce the games. You can't keep milking the cash cow and it's expecting it to not run out, to not go dry. I mean, Simon Jordan made a good point on TalkSport, where 80% of the revenue goes to the players and managers. So they're effectively the ones that milk the cash cow the best. But I just think in physical terms of injuries, fatigue, stress, they're human beings. And although they're athletes, the best athletes in the world need to have proper breaks, have to proper rest. And time again, they look at ways to try and introduce more games of football. And I know and appreciate it's all about revenue. But sometimes I think the players need to be protected. And maybe that means a reduction in wages, who knows? But I just think you would have better longevity, which would lead to better quality in the game, if players weren't playing so many games. I mean, currently with the whole COVID crisis, players can't play, squads are reduced, and we're putting more games in. People have to be allowed to rest. Anybody that works out, anybody that trains knows that if you have too many training days that are hard sessions, you start burning out, and there's nothing you can do about it. It doesn't matter what recovery programs you put in place, it doesn't matter what supplements you take, your body actually just needs physical rest. You can only flog that horse for so long, and then there's just nothing left to flog, and that's just all there is to it. So I actually would support the players if they went on strike. I don't see them doing it. And the reasons I don't ever see them doing it is because I don't imagine that they're that supportive of each other. Club rivalries sometimes become too much. That it would take something massive to get all of the players to back each other. And not all of the players have the clout at a club. And some clubs desperately need the money. But I think something's got to give. You know, do we start? I mean, what is there currently? There's the Carabao Cup, is it? FA Cup, and then maybe Champions League or UEFA, then your Premier League matches, then your international matches. And if you're a top flight player, you could be playing in all of that. I think they've got to do something. Maybe if you're a Champions League club or UEFA club, you should only focus on the FA Cup and Premier League and leave the other cups to the lower teams, let them win something. You know, I honestly don't have an answer to that. I think we have too many competitions, and we either extend the season, which I just, do you know what, I think that's the biggest problem for me. I don't have a solution. I don't have an answer. I just know what the question is, and the question is, how do we help these players take care of themselves better. Because I know, like, and I'm somebody that says it as well, Christ, with the fucking money you earn, put some effort in. It's not like you're doing 40 hours a week down the factory. It's not like you're doing 40 hours a week in a care home. But that doesn't mean they're not human beings. It doesn't mean that they don't have welfare concerns. And let's be honest, the first, if it ever happened, and God forbid the thought, that a player ever committed suicide because of the stresses of the game had become too much, where does that leave us? And I think that's the problem, is that sometimes as sports fans, football fans, boxing fans, whatever you are a passionate fan about, you forget you're not the one running up and down the pitch. You're not the one taking the blows. It's very easy for me to sit here saying, fucking hell, mate, for that money, I'd run up and down every Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, you would, until it was your norm. And for most of these guys today, they grew up in academy football. It's not like going back 20 years, 30 years. You know, and I think about people like Kenny Dalglish, Brian Robson, you know, who grew up in mining towns and industrial towns and cities in impoverished areas. You know, you weren't going to tell anyone. I think it was Kenny Dalglish, was he from Glasgow? If he's not, I apologise. But Kenny Dalglish wasn't going to look at anybody and say, oh yeah, you know, it's a bit tough turning up for a game of football for Liverpool at the weekend. You know, his background would have had, you know, they'd have lynched him. And to be fair, they weren't on the same money either. Not even close to the sort of money that the astronomical figures that players earn today. But times have changed massively. You didn't have the pressures of social media. If you had a bad game on a Saturday or Sunday, if you didn't pick up the paper, you wouldn't know what anyone was saying about you. You wouldn't even know if anyone gave a shit. In fact, there's a good chance nobody would be discussing it. Whereas now everybody is. And I do think that, yeah, we definitely they need to do something to register the fact that players are overworking, just playing too many games, overtraining almost. And it's obviously causing injuries. It's obviously causing concerns for people like Pep and Klopp to come out and say, like, look, for crying out loud, the players need a break. And look, it'll be selfish reasons from their point of view. They are literally just, when I'm not able to get the best out of my players because they're too exhausted and I need more from them. And I can't get more from them because they're too exhausted. And that affects the quality of the game. That shortens the careers of players. And I think ultimately, and maybe it has long gone, maybe there aren't that many players really that crazy love the game like we once thought they did. Maybe it is now just a career. But even so, they should be protected. Their welfare should still be the most important part of managing that career. So, whatever they decide, if they decide to go on strike, yeah, I'd support them. I wouldn't hold it against them, that's for certain.